and all guests on 95.7 The Game appear on the River Islands guest line. Isn't it time for you to discover the islands, River Islands in Lathrop? And he joins us now at a time where we've got a ton to go through. Niner contracts, Warriors situation, Lauri Markkanen, and the fact that we're told, Mr. Kawakami, you just got done chatting with Joe Lacob. So please tell us everything he said.
Everything.
Yeah, maybe not on that part, but it'll be released tomorrow morning. But I can just kind of go through. I just got done with it because, it's like we went through all the topics, asked them all the questions. Klay Thompson, Steph Curry. Started with Steph Curry. He told Mark Spears and Anscape, I think it's not a surprise if you know Steph Curry that he wants to remain a Warrior for life, but he doesn't want to be a bottom feeder. Usually, he wants to win, and asked Lacob about that, and he had the answer basically that we want to win, absolutely. Like, we want Curry on the team, but absolutely, we all share the same thing. I think you get kind of where he's coming from on that is that they don't foresee themselves ever being bottom feeders. There's more to it, sort of on and on about just kind of going through the details of what happened with Klay, the offer that was on the table in the fall that was not there towards, free agency, how that all occurred, where they think they improved, how good they, do he thinks they have a shot at winning championship with this roster, but there potentially is a next move coming. We can't, I couldn't ask him or couldn't get him, he's not going to say a name of another player was on his team, but I think we can all imagine the Lauri Markkanen stuff is still out there. We don't know if that's going to happen. Certainly no trade is happening like right now, but like there are hints in this conversation about what might happen next. A whole lot of things, guys. Talked about everything.
That's a great tease.
As I tried to do with Joe Lacob, but there's a lot of conversation about Steph, about Klay, and about what they might do next. I think those would be the three highlights from that conversation.
Great highlights. And just, I don't want to have you give too much away from the pod because we'll all listen to it. And I do want to get into your Kyle Shanahan conversation coming up because I thought that was fascinating. But are you sensing that they're antsy about making a move now, or is it more about kind of a wait and see and, get to the deadline and see where they are from there?
Yeah, I think first you got August 6th, which you probably all know. That's the first time Lauri Markkanen can redo his deal with Utah. And also, it must be that day for him to be qualified to be traded at the end of the trade deadline, which is in February. So it's a very key date. I think they're waiting for that. A whole lot of things could happen there. No one knows for sure how this will go. My point has been, hey, Lauri Markkanen has a decision here too. He does not have to sign on August 6th. He could say, I'm not signing August 6th, so you cannot trade me with a new deal. I'll wait till August 7th. They might trade him before that. I think that's the first pause. Now, if he signs the deal on August 6th, he cannot be traded again till the last moment of the trade deadline. And then maybe that's where this ramps up again. Maybe the Warriors and Jazz have to delay it till then or some other team. But that August 6th is huge. I think many of us have been pointing to that. The thing that I've been emphasizing, and I will continue to emphasize, Lauri Markkanen has sales for this. It's not like he's just going to say, I'll sign it whenever. You can trade me in 6 months. He can try to control the situation. Let's see what happens August 5th, August 6th.
Great stuff. Tim Kawakami with us here on Willard and Dibs 95.7 The Game. What about the people that Joe Lacob can talk about? Like, Tim, did you get any sense for a willingness to part with Kuminga or Podziemski, and is one of them a bigger lean than the other?
Yeah, he's not going to tip his hand on that. He loves Kuminga. We know how much they like Podziemski, but also I think it's pretty clear that I think I asked him, is Podziemski possibly the guy holding back a trade? He goes, listen, you can trade anybody. Like, there's one or two players that we will not trade, but everything else is in discussion. It's the old Kyle Shanahan thing, right? If they made the right offer for him, John Lynch would probably trade him. It depends on who's offered. It depends on what the timing of the deal, but I don't know that Podziemski or Kuminga would be the thing they wouldn't give up. It just depends on what package. Is it all the picks and one of those guys? Is it all the picks and both those guys? I don't think they do that. What picks are you talking about? I've theorized, and I don't think my conversation with Lacob would change that, is it's probably like, hey, if we put Podziemski in, we're taking out picks. And you put Kuminga in, we're going to take out other picks, and we're not putting them both in. It's a variation. It's a discussion. It moves up and it moves down. I do not think one of those guys would be the sole reason they don't do a trade. I just don't think they're going to go, okay, the whole boat, with 3 first-round picks, 2 first-round pick swaps, coming again, Pajemski. That I don't think they're going to do. Now, again, we get to that moment, maybe they do pull the trigger, but I don't think they're there. At least that's not the posturing. But then if they put one of those in, some of those picks have to come out.
Do you get the sense that even if they stood pat and made no moves, that he sees them as a team that could really threaten for a title?
Yeah, he says that, who knows, I think they are counting on this next move or some other moves down the road to seriously say that, but he's not going to say they stink, right? And I don't think they do think they stink. They did win a bunch of games last year, even with Draymond suspended. I think it was 16 total. Even with blowing all the late games that we know they did, I think the way he puts it is they project themselves to be better than last season, and they thought they were pretty good last season. They didn't make the playoffs, but they won 46. Can they win 48? Can they win 49? Get themselves the 5 seed? I think they project that kind of thing, and I don't think that's out of hand. And then the next move maybe gets them to the next echelon. Listen, I think even if they acquire Lauri Markkanen and they're not giving up a ton of things, they're not a championship favorite. They're not, Oklahoma City, Denver, Boston, any of those teams. They're in the conversation, and I think part of this is, can you get yourself a realistic shot? Like 2022, I don't buy the line that, no one believed in them. I thought they were pretty good, but I didn't think they were going to win a championship. They got in there, they got hot, they won a championship. Could a team with Lauri Markkanen on it do the same thing? I think that's in a discussion. I don't think a team without Lauri Markkanen on it and with much the similar roster is going to, be a serious threat at that. I think they just think can you get a 6 seed with this team? Can you get the 5 seed and win around and scare somebody in the second round? I think you could. At least you can talk yourself into it and then be in position to make that next move if it's there.
Tim, I know you've been busy today. Are you aware of the comments on Jeff Teague's podcast that Draymond made about the team supposedly having some trades that they were about to make until he kind of talked them out of it? Are you even aware of this comment?
Someone brought it up to me.
Okay.
I don't know what that would be. I don't know what. I think Draymond obviously is involved in a lot of things. I don't know what trade that would be because I think I follow this pretty carefully. I don't know where that would have come from, but who knows? Draymond's involved in a lot of things.
Well, and I guess my question would be: Is this even viable? But more so, like, and I want to play it for everybody in case anyone listening doesn't know what I'm talking about. This was the comment.
We was just about to make some trades last week, and I told them straight up, like, yo, that trade helped me. Like, it'll help me right now in my career these last couple of years and stuff. But I've always spoke to y'all from a place of what's best for this organization. I won't stop now. Yeah. That's a bad trade. Like, don't do that trade. Like, I disagree with it, although it's going to help me right now.
How do you think that lands in the front office, the implication that you were about to make a bad deal and I told them don't do it?
I think it's a shrug because I don't know what that would involve. I do think a lot of us overreact or react in a way to Draymond stuff that the Warriors front office doesn't. Is Draymond. They hear this stuff all the time. And, he's involved and he's super, super knowledgeable and he has a podcast or he's on other podcasts and so it goes. I don't know what this is. I mean, I guess just listening to it, I did not hear the specifics. That could mean like, don't give up all this for marketing. That's how I would project it. Maybe Draymond could tell me if I'm wrong. I think it's like, don't give up everything for marketing. Because guess what? You know who would fit stylistically with Draymond really well? Lauri Markkanen.
Yeah.
So that's maybe the Draymond reference. That's what makes me think like that. Like, hey, that would fit my game, but let's not do all that. If I had to guess, believe me, I would ask Lacob about it if I had heard about this. I didn't hear about it after. I would think it would maybe, I'm just saying in my own mind, I think maybe it's a reference to don't give up everything for Lauri Markkanen. I don't think there's been ever an agreement. Like, if you give all this up, it will happen, but maybe that's the reference.
And philosophically, do you think that the franchise is thinking about it in those terms? Like, you want to maximize the Steph Curry window and Draymond's a part of that as well, but realistically, are they thinking about the next 2 years more than they're thinking about the future?
Well, next few years are the future. So, yeah, I mean, I think they're thinking about everything. They're thinking if they get a surefire chance to be one of the top teams this year, you do it. But I don't know exactly how that would happen. I don't think that's marketing. I think he's more of a longer play, give him a better shot this year and a better shot next year and a better shot the year after. I mean, it's all levels. It's like, what do you have to give up in order to get this? And then what do you have to give up to get the other thing? I think they're always going to try to get better. They absolutely thought they were going to get Paul George, and that would have been a lot, probably more than they're offering for marketing. I probably know that as for a fact. I guess I can get aggregated for saying that, but whatever. I think, it just depends. They thought Paul George really could make themselves effect. They really did. And, Paul George had his best and his healthiest could. And, if you're going to pay him $210 million, he better. I would question that, but I get what they're thinking. And then marketing, is a slight step below that or maybe close to that. Then what are you going to give up for that? It's a lot of different sliding situations, this, but not that, this and this, but we take that out. So, I think it's all measured. It's all part of it. I just think, I'll put it this way. I think they put themselves in a place where they can make that next move. Doesn't mean they will. And they think they're better now. And for the next few years of Steph, maybe 3, maybe 4, maybe 5, the way he's playing. And they've also given themselves the option to go bigger. And what they didn't want is to be limited. Like, we can't make this next move. We're stuck. The money says we can't go any harder. The second apron means we can't do anything. And that's what they've done. They've dropped out of that. They moved back into luxury tax, but it's not terrible. And they think they're better. And they're younger, they're cheaper, and they do have this chance to do this other thing. Now, they got to do it for us all to stand up and take attention. But I think they feel like this is, where they're at is a better spot than they were last year. And it's also like willing to put themselves in the conversation for that next big move.
Tim Kawakami with us. The TK Show is part of the Odyssey family, and it is must listen. Joe Lacob coming out tomorrow. Kyle Shanahan came out earlier this week. Great stuff in there. Tim, what is your umbrella view of sort of the news of camp yesterday? Brandon Aiyuk is here, not practicing. Trent Williams is not here. What is your best guess for how these situations play out over the next 3 or 4 weeks?
Yeah, it's gonna take some money. Like, they're in that world now, and the locker room. We know how good it's been. We know that there's togetherness, there's unity, but there's also guys who want to get paid and who see. My point is, the Purdy contract's out there. They know, there's going to be a massive investment in Brock Purdy for all, unless something crazy happens, and that's going to be next offseason. And the dollars might be getting a little short at that point. And I think Christian McCaffrey got his new deal, and Brandon Aiyuk wants to try to maximize it. And you had Nick Bosa do it last year, which I really think kind of broke precedent. And Trent Williams now is saying, this is time for me to get that money, because I'm not saying it's all because of Brock Purdy, but they've been able to keep this roster together, this very talented, very expensive roster together, because they had a quarterback on making very little money, right? That was the whole Trey Lance thing. And then it turned into Brock Purdy making even less. Well, that's going to change next year. And I do think there's pressures being put. It would happen to any veteran team that has this many good players. But I think we're right in a little moment here. It's after Nick Bosa broke the bank, 100% broke the bank. Took him, stared him down to the week before the first regular season game last year, and got every penny he would have possibly wanted. Absolutely beat him. 49ers don't usually get beat like that in negotiations, and he beat him because he's Nick Bosa. Other players are saying, okay, I kind of want some of that, and also I better get some of that, because once the Purdy deal is done, like you see with other teams with quarterbacks making 55, 57, 59, like the Cowboys are dealing with right now with Dak Prescott, and they might have to pay him more, but maybe they don't feel like they have all the money in the world to pay CeeDee Lamb or Micah Parsons. 49ers haven't had to all the way deal with that because they have the quarterback on a low deal. Well, they're about to not have the quarterback on a low deal. I think there's a general mood around the team about that. I don't think, when I talk to Shanahan, I don't think he and Lynch are absolutely panicked over it, but I think they realize this is a unique moment for them, a unique moment for Jed York and Parag Marate. To keep this together, a lot's going to depend on Brock Purdy, and it's going to be dependent on how they pay guys around him and who they put around him.
And does Brandon Aiyuk have the stomach or the countenance, Tim, to go into this year and not have a long-term deal and be able to navigate a year on the fifth-year option and be able to go out there and, compartmentalize and put that aside and still be a good 49er?
We shall see. Who knows? That's the game that's being played, right? It's make a lot of noise, show up for camp, make sure every media member sees them, not practicing, and continue to put the pressure on. I don't know if 49ers will cave into that. I don't know if Brandon Aiyuk will cave into that. The sense that he's there, would make you believe that there is a path towards it. But I can continue to be told that there's still a money difference and it's not small. And where is his stomach for it? I don't know. We shall see. I think he's going to want to play. I don't think he's going to give up checks. But will it affect how he plays the way that Bosa and Deebo Samuel have said that long negotiations kind of affected the way they played the year after? We shall see. I don't know. This is something that I think the Aiyuk camp is putting onto the 49ers. Like this is a big deal right now. The urgency is right now. You want to win a Super Bowl, you have to pay this guy right now. And the 49ers are saying, no, we got the leverage. So I don't know how that's going to play out. This is a unique one. I think John Lynch was pretty clear about that a couple of days ago when he talked about it. Like, this is unique. Like this is not one that they thought was going to get this ugly. I don't think they thought it, even though there were signs of this throughout. They didn't think it was going to get to this point. They take all these to the deadline, right? They take Fred Warner signed like the day of camp, and Kittle was maybe 1 day into camp, and Deebo was like 2 days into camp. This one, I think, projects to go a lot longer. I don't know if it's going to go as long as Nick Bosa, but I think this one is kind of in that category.
Tim, do you think, is there like even a smart conversation about the idea of the Niners not even wanting right now to extend Brandon Aiyuk just because you get another year of information on the health of both players, plus you get a year to see what Pearsall has got? Like, is there a thought that maybe the Niners don't want to do this until after the year?
Well, no team wants to do it until they have to, right? I mean, they can get him for $14 million on his fifth-year option. Of course they'd want to, but that's not how the NFL works. Nick Bosa got his new deal with 1 year left. Fred Warner got his new deal with 1 year left. Deebo Samuel got his new deal with 1 year left. This is how it works. Every team, they'd love to have Brandon Aiyuk signed for 10 years at $1 million a year. That's not the way this works. So, they could, stare him down and say, you have to play on your, fifth-year option for $14 million. They could do that. But is it in question that they would rather have another year of this and not pay him $25 million? Yes, they absolutely would rather. It is not the way the league usually works. It just isn't. It hasn't been the way they've worked. So that could be interesting. Like, you could say, why can't I get the same stuff that Nick Bosa got? Why can't I get the same thing that you just extension for McCaffrey? Why can't I do that? Then you have discussions about it, and then you have, who's going to blink? To this point, as I wrote, this morning, nobody's blinked, and that's why you have the situation you got.
Tim Kawakami with us here on Willard and Dibs. Tim, also I know you mentioned off the top some of the things that Joe Lacob addressed. Specific to the Klay Thompson situation, I sort of detect that maybe there was some interesting stuff there. Is there anything that you can share with regard to how that all sort of is viewed now by Lacob and the organization?
No, I mean, I don't think it's, and again, I'm trying to replay it in my head. I think it's generally what has been reported. I don't know if he said it specifically until now. There was an offer in the fall. It was reported. He didn't say this, but it was reported. I believe it's very much accurate by Shams Charania of the Athletics. It was $26 million a year for 2 years. And Klay turned it down, and then circumstances changed. And it's Lacob basically talking about that. And then at that point, the Warriors decided to try to go. This is, again, he's not saying this. This is what happened. He's certainly not denying it. They try to get Paul George. So if they're going to try to get Paul George, they couldn't have a deal with Klay Thompson on the table. while they were trying to get the Paul George thing done, even though it didn't, then Klay Thompson decided he wanted to go somewhere else, and I think they believe he really did want a fresh start. Now, some of that was probably where he didn't love the way the Warriors were handling it. Joe Lacob cannot speak to that, but I think all these things that we've talked about, we've surmised, that have been reported, some of it by me, some of it by others, that this is the way it played out. And if you listen to Joe Lacob describe it in the way that he can, from what he knows, I think that will be all fleshed out. And I think that part of it is underlined and maybe, explained in a way that everyone can understand the big picture.
Tim, thanks, man. Great stuff. We look forward to listening when it comes out.
All done. Guys, thanks so much.
Thanks, Tim.
There he goes. TK Show.